Let's do it.
Yeah.
Resident Evil Death Island is the final and, at this point in time, most recent CG Resident Evil movie, and one that I've been looking forward to a lot since exploring the Resident Evil universe, simply for the fact that this film is the only instance in the long-running series to bring all of the main protagonists together in a massive team-up scenario. Not to mention also being the first animated film to feature Jill Valentine, and she is front and center in both all of the marketing promotion as well as the storyline of the film, so this was a huge plus for me. After playing Resident Evil 6, which really presented itself as a huge, ambitious crossover kind of game, I really felt like the only things that were missing from it were the inclusion of Jill and Claire. So getting to see them back in action here is definitely part of the appeal. However, even with the high levels of hype and excitement that I had for this Resident Evil Avengers project, the film overall kind of falls somewhere in the middle for me as far as the animated Resident Evil movies go. I certainly did enjoy it, but I also think that my expectations were a little too high. I like that the movie opens being set within the Raccoon City incident as we follow a couple of Umbrella Corp soldiers on a mission to rescue some high-ranking officials, but explicitly told to leave the civilians alone without much explanation as to why and to what's going on. We don't know it yet, but this is our introduction to who would become our main villain of the movie, Dylan Blake, who is forced to murder a friend of his who is a fellow soldier after he got infected, and ends up doing so in a particularly brutal way. His motivation now is to go after these corporations and governments that hide the truth and force soldiers like him into situations like this that leads him to having this antagonism towards our main characters that all basically, in fact, work for government organizations and go on these missions for them. It's not a bad idea for a villain, and it's a good motivation for the character to have a direct opposite reaction to the events that all of the other characters also experienced. Instead of wanting to help people and to stop bioterror like our main characters, and not wanting other people to have to go through what they did, this character, on the other hand, wants people to suffer the way he did. Also doesn't seem to recognize that a lot of our main characters actually have been going after and exposing the corrupt government officials along the way. There's also another antagonist from Vendetta that's back again with Maria, whose only purpose in this movie seems to be somebody for Leon to fight, and it's also briefly mentioned that she helped Dylan get the virus and the technology that he uses, based upon the connections that she had with Arias, the villain from Vendetta. But she was also kind of the least memorable part of Vendetta. Anyway, my favorite portion of the movie is actually probably the first act before the characters even get to Alcatraz, where the majority of the movie takes place. Mostly it's because this movie gives the most effort I've seen from any of the CG films to have a really solid continuity. Obviously, it references the last movie with Maria still being around, but it also makes specific mention of how Jill was controlled by Wesker in Resident Evil 5, and that she's still dealing with the repercussions of that, causing her to massively overcompensate and put herself into increasingly dangerous situations, not wanting to get anybody else involved. She's feeling guilt, and it's eating away at her, making her more reckless. And that's a great story point, how she's responding to that, of being violated and taken over and forced to try to kill her friends. Yes, let's deal with this. Also, there's a great moment between her and Chris where Chris brings up losing Pierce from Resident Evil 6. And wow, I mean, I know all of the CG movies are technically canon, but all the other ones really just kind of did their own story without too much or any mention of previous events. I really like how Death Island is including all of these bits of information from past games and movies to make it all feel like it matters. It's a nice touch that none of the other ones really do. The only thing that feels a little off is that Jill pretty much has the exact copy-paste of her design from the Resident Evil 3 remake, and I get that's probably because the game came out just shortly before this movie did, so they're trying to have some synergy with their releases here. But RE3 technically took place in 1998, and this movie takes place in 2015. So the fact that she looks exactly the same hairstyle, same outfit, same design, I mean, they could have changed her up a little bit. I get that it's a nitpick, but it kind of throws me off. Multiple investigations of some outbreaks lead the team to Alcatraz Island, where the victims had previously visited. We get the trio of Chris, Jill, and Claire going undercover as tourists to visit the island, and Hawaiian shirt Chris is a thing, and it's probably my favorite version of him. I wish that he wore this the entire movie, or that this was a costume option in one of the games, because I love it. In fact, when I cosplay Chris at some point in my life, this might be the version I go with. No sooner do they get to the island when people start turning into zombies, and we get some decent action scenes here in the prison. And although there are some really good action moments, and I love the team up that's happening here, I do have to say that Vendetta still holds the top spot for me as far as action and choreography goes. The bonus here is that I have Jill kicking ass, which is great to see. But none of the action scenes in this movie really stood out to me that much, and that's a bit disappointing. Jill gets separated from the group and enters the sewers, where she runs into Leon. They have a great scuffle similar to Leon and Chris in RE6 before they realize who the other is, and fuck it, this is a great moment. These characters have never interacted with each other in the games, and it literally took like 25 years in our real time for this to happen, so for novelty's sake, a segment where Jill and Leon team up, fighting a bunch of liquor kind of creatures in the sewer, and Jill having to put up with Leon's cheesy one-liners. Just give me an entire game like this. This was fantastic to see.
0.
What?
You wanted to know how many there were?
I also do have to mention that the animation here is the best that it's ever been. There's still some awkward stiff movements, and some of the faces feel off when they're speaking from time to time, but the transition from degeneration in the mid-2000s to a 2023 production really shows how far they've come with this concept, and I honestly would love a lot more CG movies or shows with this sort of feeling and animation. I think that it's really stepped up its game. My main gripes really come from, besides the team-up factor of the movie, there's not really a lot of standout moments or ideas going on here. The prison setting is great for Resident Evil, and it's been done in some of the games like Code Veronica or Revelations 2, but most of the movie is just in one jail hallway or down in the sewers that all look the same. The action scenes aren't really up to the same level as Vendetta, and there's virtually no horror to speak of throughout the entire film. The zombies here, or the infected people, are just super fast and jumping all over the place, doing acrobatics, and it hardly makes them seem scary. Even Vendetta, that was mostly just an action movie, did have the more tension-building mansion scene in the beginning. But in this film, there's no horror anywhere, even though the setting would be perfect for it. Alcatraz is just begging to be utilized as a terrifying environment, and I don't feel like this location lived up to what it could have been. Instead, we get an extended sequence where everybody but Jill gets infected by Dylan spreading the virus through these small bug-like drones that kind of remind me of Dr. Giro's bugs from Dragon Ball. But as Chris, Claire, and Leon begin to succumb to being infected, Dylan wants to force Jill to have to kill them, just like he had to with his partner. And he goes on a long villain monologue that gets kind of tiring after a bit. Yes, it's a good form of tension, putting Jill into a situation where she may have to kill everybody, but I don't know, something about this scene just didn't work for me completely, and I felt like it went on far too long. But hey, these characters aren't the only ones that get to join the party, because we also have Rebecca Chambers coming to the rescue with a vaccine. What a gal. She's smart, resourceful, puts herself in danger to help these characters, and she's still a cutie patootie. The rest of the movie goes how you would expect it to. We got Chris, Claire, and Leon getting cured, and they all go after Dylan, who infects himself, and then merges with a giant shark bioweapon or something. I don't really know what goes on, but a huge mutated creature comes out looking really fucking cool. Basically, it's a monster that's protruding from the mouth of another monster. It's got hooved feet and a skull face. Does it make any sense? Probably not, but it's really fucking cool. Leon has this huge kung fu fight with Maria, who seems to be way more pissed at Leon than she is at Chris, even though both of them are responsible for her father's death. Maybe they just wanted to have a scene where Leon beats up a girl, showing that he doesn't play favorites and that these spin kicks are rated E for everyone. I don't really know, but hey, it's an extra fight scene. The main spectacle is, of course, all of the characters teaming up to fight the final boss. Jill, Chris, Claire, Leon, Rebecca, all cocking their weapons at once and dodging an attack from a giant creature going into an epic battle. And hey, I'll give the movie credit for this. That's never been done before. It's the Avengers Assemble moment, and it's cool as hell. It's the first and only time we get to see all of these characters at once and in the middle of a huge action scene against a giant monster, so it delivers on that. I also wonder about the characters that weren't included, that were only in like one game. Like maybe they have a team up somewhere else off screen. Like maybe Carlos, Sheva, and Billy Cohen are all getting lunch together at this very same time. So yeah, the giant battle ensues. They use every classic weapon in RE history, rocket launchers, grenades, and Jill recreates killing Nemesis in RE3 using a huge plasma cannon that is here for some reason. There's not much to comment on, honestly. It's just a giant battle with all the main characters against a giant monster, with each character contributing in their own specific way. I think the best and worst thing about Death Island kind of come down to the same thing. It's a team-up movie, but without much else to offer. The horror is not as good as it could be, and neither is the action. It also pretty much follows the same beats and same formula as the last three movies, and since the movies also can't really do much in the way of progressing things beyond what the games do, you kind of end with every character just going right back to the way that they were before, but with the exception of Jill, who has a small yet existing character arc of moving through her guilt and becoming a team player once again. And I appreciated at least that much, especially for my favorite Resident Evil character. Why it took them this long to get her into one of the animated films, I don't know, but I'm happy she got to be, and she's also front and center when she finally did. So overall, Death Island is great for its novelty, but it doesn't offer a ton outside of that. Anyways, guys, let me know what you thought of Resident Evil Death Island down below if you've seen it. Do you love it? Do you hate it? And where would you rank it among the other animated Resident Evil movies? And with that, on my Resident Evil journey, I do believe I've come to the last piece of media in the main timeline that features these main characters besides Chris, who I know shows up in Resident Evil 7 and 8 that I have yet to play. And all I have to say coming to the end of their involvement is this. 1, can we get a game with Jill and Leon together? And can Leon and Claire just fucking kiss already? Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Leave all your thoughts and opinions down below. Leave a like and comment to help it out in the algorithm. If you want to support the channel on a deeper level, I'd appreciate it. I have Patreon, channel memberships, and all the social media links where you can follow me down below. Also, go check out my Resident Evil playlist where I'm trying to review everything that I can get my hands on as far as the main timeline is concerned, going through it for the very first time. And I appreciate you guys going on this journey with me. It's been a fun one, and I'm getting close to the end, and super excited for RE9 that comes out next year. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you next time.
You got a gun?
Nope. Lost it.
Here.
Thanks.